Welcome to the Real ResQ podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast. This episode of the Real ResQ is being sponsored by Breeze Eastern. They dedicate themselves to our helicopter rescue world. Since the very first helicopter rescue in November of 1945, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured superior rescue hoist solutions. While much of the technology and the unique mission requirements have changed over the past 75 years, their commitment to the rescuers, the operators, and those being rescued has not. Contact them today by visiting them at breeze-eastern.com. Coming up next on this episode of The Real ResQ, we're joined by a guy who's been doing volunteer search and rescue for over 25 years. He's also a full-time firefighter. After we get done our conversation, we ended up messaging back and forth, and he was telling me all sorts of different stories that he forgot to tell me on the podcast. So we might need a part two. But until then, please welcome our next guest from Northern Ireland, Mr. Simon Megaw. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ. Today we've got a guy from Northern Ireland. That's right, coming to us with some amazing stories. All from Northern. Wait a minute, are they all from Northern Ireland?
Yeah. No, one's from Southern Ireland.
Okay.
When I was doing a job down there, but yeah, predominantly they're all from Northern Ireland. Yeah.
All right, perfect. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm good with all that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Simon Megaw. What's up, dude?
Hey man, how's it going?
It's fantastic. I love it when you guys come on, just because it spreads the love across the world. It makes I just, on the other side of the pond, on the other side of the lake.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Yeah, it's just a small pond between us. It's not so far.
That's it. Yeah, no, not even a little bit. It's great. Anyway.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah, dude, I'm psyched. How's things up there?
Yeah, good. Yeah. It's a bit typical Irish weather today. It's a bit overcast, but it's still warm. 17 degrees, which is good for this time of year.
Not bad.
Not bad. Yeah, weather's been a bit sort of disjointed recently. It doesn't know what it wants to do, so just wait for every eventuality and hope for the best. Do you know what I mean?
Love it. Dude, I love it, man.
It's cool.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I really am looking forward to hearing some of the stories that you've had up there, and it's gonna be. I'm just, I'm excited. So I'll tell you what. With you, start us out. A little bit of background about you. How did you get into search and rescue, and how did all that happen for you?
Yeah. Okay, let's go. So, as you said, Simon Megaw. I'm born and bred in Northern Ireland. I was born in Belfast. I live in Bangor, which is just down the coast from Belfast now, a seaside town. Probably now over 25 years involvement with voluntary search and rescue teams. As starting off obviously as a team member, progressing to a team leader, and then four of us, set up our own team. There was a catalyst to that, which we can talk about. And now a technical rescue instructor, freelance technical rescue instructor, and full-time firefighter. So it's kind of diversified a wee bit from the start,
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And you were a sailor as well, aren't you?
Yeah. So I suppose, I grew up in a seaside town. Always been an outdoor kid, always playing in the outdoors whenever I was younger, and started sailing when I was about 6 or 7, I think. Would sail every weekend. Would have sailed on the Tuesday and Thursday after school. And then that sort of progressed at the age of 13, 14, started getting into powerboats, and doing powerboat qualifications and stuff through the RYA. And we sort of progressed from there.
Again, the RYA? What's the RYA?
The RYA, so the Royal Yachting Association. So it's like
the
accrediting body in the UK for, for sailing certifications, powerboat, jet ski, all that kind of stuff. Anything that goes in the water, they'll do certifications for,
Oh, excellent. Okay. Nice. So you've been sailing your whole life. That means you've been on the water. No wonder you like the
Yeah.
water. It's me too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm still in it now. I don't have a boat now in a minute because I'm a swiftwater rescue instructor. So yeah, ditch the
Ah,
boats, ditch the kayaks, just go in myself. You know what I mean? We don't need boats or anything anymore. We just swim.
that's awesome. Swiftwater rescue. Are you doing anything like on rivers and fast moving
Yeah,
water and stuff?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all stuff now is on river. So yeah, so I'm certified through Rescue 3 Europe as a swiftwater rescue technician instructor.
Excellent.
I'm also a rope rescue operator and swiftwater flood boat operator. So we can operate boats in swift water. We can swim in swift water, and obviously we can then put rope systems above swift water as well. So yeah, we've got
Nice.
it covered. We've got
Oh,
it
that's
all covered.
awesome. I love doing stuff like that. I have such a blast with it when we get into the water and into the rivers and you're trying to swim behind eddies and
Yeah,
trying to catch the standing wave. Next thing you know, you're playing it. You're like, hey, this is training.
that's
Oh,
it.
I'm
Yeah,
having
you
a good
need. Yeah,
time,
oh, yeah,
dude.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to find the hydraulics. You know what I mean? All these guys go to the beach and they're surfing on their surfboards. So we can find hydraulics in the river and we can surf on our bodies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And if
that's
you
what
do
it
it
is.
really right, you
It's
kick a
all about the
board
crack.
on.
It's all the
Yeah.
crack. It's yeah, absolutely. Has
Oh
to be
my
done.
gosh. It's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
It's such a
yeah,
blast. As long
yeah,
as you
yeah.
don't
Good.
fall, you just keep surfing.
That's it. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then if you go under, you get bashed about a wee bit and hope you pop out further downstream. You know. That's what it's all about,
oh,
isn't it? Yeah,
oh, it is. Totally is. I absolutely love it, man. That's funny. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So how did you get into search and rescue? Because it had something to do with you being a sailor.
It did, yeah. So I must. I'm going to write it down now because I'm going to send you a picture of the boat. Okay.
Okay.
Um. So when I was learning to sail, we sailed in little boats called an optimist, which was like all you can describe it is would be like a bathtub with a piece of scaffolding pole and like a dishcloth as a sail. Do you know what I mean? You'll see when I
I
send you the
totally
picture.
do. Okay.
Yeah, they're little square things. They look like they shouldn't even be on the water. Um, and where I live at the minute, it's literally 5 minutes from here is the sea. Where I was sailing at the time. I was on a sailing course, and a big squall came through. And I couldn't get it turned. Yeah, so the thing filled with water. There was loads of boats over. The lads that were out there in the rescue boats doing cover for it, they got it handed to them because there was so many boats went over in the squall. Um, I couldn't get this thing to turn. You know, the squall came through that hard that you were turning the rudder and it just was making a jet of water. The boat was going straight like so. Um, and it filled with water as well. And then I started to get cold, get hypothermic, and I was across the far side of the bay. I mean, it's not so far. I think it's maybe a mile or something straight across. But you know, whenever you're that age, you're starting to flap because you don't know what to do. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, do you
Totally.
jump in? Do you just ditch this thing in the rocks, or do you wait for somebody to come and get you? So, yeah, one of the lads, the lads in the rescue boat came and got me and brought me in hypothermic and threw me in the shower and says, "Good luck." Do you know what I mean? Um, so yeah, that's basically the story. So I was like, you know what? Those big orange boats coming to get people, that looks like good crack. Maybe that's something I could do in later years, you know. Um, so yeah, that's how it started. And like I said, then you know when I was old enough, then I started getting involved with the powerboat and stuff and the rescue stuff at the yacht club. And started doing the qualifications up to my advanced powerboat. And at the time we had in schools we had a thing called the Duke of Edinburgh's Award, which is like I'm trying to think how you describe it, but you do. There's different sections to it. You know, like you have to do an expedition and you have to do like a voluntary section and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's all about sort of building leadership within young people and stuff. I think it still happens. I'm not too sure. Um, but I was able to do my voluntary bit with the local RNLI, so the local lifeboat down here. So I used to go down on a Sunday morning and the lads would have trained on a Sunday morning, so I'd have gone down and washed down the boat and helped the mechanic, um, servicing the boat and that sort of stuff. So like, at the age of 15, learned how to change a gearbox and an outboard, how to change plugs, all that kind of stuff, and maintain the boat really. And then off the flip side of that, I was able to get out in the boat with them and learn essentially the basics of the RNLI's trainee program, really. And that stuff's lived with me still. Still that was you couldn't thank them enough for that. So that was a great opportunity. And then 1999 it was. I moved to England. I'd applied to the Air Force to be a pilot, and they told me to go and get a degree. So I was like,
Of course they
I
did.
hadn't. Yeah, you know
Jeez.
what I mean? Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Oh,
Go and get a
man.
degree, go and mature, go and be a student, and you drink beer for 4 years. Do you know what I mean? And then you'll be a better person, apparently. Um, so I didn't really know what to do. That hadn't been the plan. So I went to university and did outdoor education and development training. So just basically spent 3.5 years in the mountains, and then went back for
Wait,
the Air
what
Force.
are you doing in the mountains? Like camping,
We
hiking, or cool
Yeah,
shit?
all that stuff. Yeah, climbing.
Yeah.
So yeah, introduction to climbing. So we did climbing, single pitch, and all that kind of stuff, which I'd not done before. Still not too happy about it. I'll abseil down anything, no problem. I'll go down anything. But see, trusting wee pieces of wire whenever you're climbing up stuff, no, forget it. It's not happening.
So that means I'm leading the route and then you're following. Got it.
That's
Okay.
exactly right. Yeah,
I got it.
yeah, exactly right. So yeah, all sorts of outdoor education stuff. Anything you can think of in the outdoors. It was all based in and around outdoor centres. So kayaking, canoeing, team building, climbing, all that kind of stuff. And then so we did that. Yeah, it was 4 years that degree. Went back to the Air Force, and final medical review, they found that I had asthma when I was 3 years old. So they were like, "You can't fly." So I was like, "Oh man!" After all that, ironically though, the thing was they'd already awarded me a flying scholarship, so that was 20 hours towards a private pilot's license. So
Nice.
I'd already done 20 hours. So then I thought, well, yeah, let's go down the route of civilian flying with the aspirations to be a helicopter pilot, and SAR helicopter pilot was the plan. So then I was lucky enough to get awarded another scholarship by a commercial pilots charity, which saw me through the remainder of my private pilot's license. So I flew light aircraft for a while, and then was looking at then the sponsorship schemes to be a direct entry airline pilot. At the time, sorry, no, before that, sorry, the sponsorship schemes had stopped because 9/11 happened. And all the airlines shut down. I think I wrote to 56 airlines at the time, and everybody came back and went, "No, 9/11's just happened. We've ceased all sponsorships and all the rest of it." So the only option then was a direct entry pilot, which you had to front £125,000, I think it was at the time, to go and do training to have. I think I can't remember the figures, 200 hours on twin engine airliners or something, and then they're like, "Yeah, well, we might give you a job." So that was that out the window. That wasn't happening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Who has
So
that hitting it around? I mean,
yeah, it's like well, yeah. Hold on, I'll just open a suitcase here, and I've got 100 grand in it. Do you know what I mean?
right. I
So
can't
yeah,
tell you where
I
I
had to
got
think
it,
of
but I got it in the case.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So I had to think of a different thing. So yeah, so the military turned me down as a pilot. So chose a different pathway. Went off down that for just shy of 10 years. There was elements of technical rescue in that. More training, never any calls or anything. It was all training stuff and assisting, local teams and that. Moved back to Northern Ireland 2008. And I suppose that's really where the search and rescue stuff started, properly. It's strange how it happened. Where I was working, they needed a first aid at work course arranged. And I just went through the phone book as it was at the time, it was and the internet, trying to find something. And I think I just looked first aid providers, picked one, and booked this guy to come and do first aid at work, 3-day first aid at work course for the lads in the place. And get chatting to this guy over lunch, and it turned out he was a unit commander for a voluntary search and rescue team in Northern Ireland, which I'd never heard of. So it turned out that in the time that I'd been away, obviously we'd had the Good Friday Agreement, the peace process, and all that sort of stuff. The military had moved out in Northern Ireland, and they used to do, historically, would have assisted the police with all the missing person stuff. So when the military left, the police didn't have the manpower to be able to commit the missing person searches. So this team had been formed as a lowland search and rescue team.
Wow.
And chatting to this guy, and he's like, the experience you've had and bits and pieces, would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, I'll get involved, see what it's all about. So was involved with that for 3 years, I think it was. And then there was quite a high profile case, and we searched for a young lad. We could talk about it later on. A young lad went into the river in the center of Belfast.
I'll tell you what, let's go on to your first rescue first, and then we'll go right into that one, because I'm already like,
okay.
I'm excited. What was your very first rescue ever?
Very first rescue ever would have been before I went across to England.
Oh, wow. Okay, way back. Gotcha.
Yeah, way back. Yeah. I suppose it was a rescue. Yeah, it wasn't essentially with a specific organization, but we'd been doing safety cover on the far side of the loch from where I was based at the time. And on our way back, and the local Coast Guard had put out a pan on the radio for medical assistance. So we were passing. It was three young sailors in dinghies. They were off, and a young girl had been hit by the boom. Yeah. So yeah.
Wait,
so
by the boom of the boat?
You know the boom. So on a sailboat, yeah.
Yeah.
The boom that comes across. Yeah. So
yeah,
these three had been offshore, training for an event, and she'd been hit by the boom. So the Coast Guard had put out a medical assistance for it, and we were like 5 minutes away. So we thought we'll spin across and see if we can help out. Laterally, it turns out they had been in contact with their coach, who was back at the club, and he'd raised the alarm. So we went over, and the young girl had been knocked out of the boat. She had quite a significant head injury. Her two colleagues that were with her in their boats had said that she'd been unconscious for a period of time. She'd come around by the time we got there, and there's two of us in a 5 meter rib, and it's before the time whenever you had any kind of spinal immobilization stuff on ribs and all that kind of thing. So, she was complaining of back and neck pain, nausea, and all the rest of it. Obviously, she's a big whack in the head. She's a bleed in the head. And we're like, what are we going to do? How are we going to get her in the boat? You know what I mean? Because we're paranoid about the spine and that sort of stuff. Being very sort of naive to that thing. We were like, what was I? 17 or something. And the guy that was with me was maybe 18, 19.
Bunch of young bucks.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? You're like, yeah. And I knew from experience that the local RNLI would maybe be 10, 15 minutes from where we were. Whereas by this point we were 5 minutes from, being able to get this young girl to medical assistance. So I think I was trying to think back at this, where the idea came from or where I'd seen it. It was probably back whenever I'd done the stuff with the RNLI in the past. But I said the lad I was with, we could deflate the sponson on the back of the boat, and that'll give us a level platform, because obviously the sailor, she was wearing a PFD, so she was floating. So we deflated the sponson, which flooded the back of the boat. But obviously, being a rib, we were like, well, hopefully it's going to stay afloat. Do you know what I mean? Or else we're all in the shit, aren't we?
Totally.
So yeah, we took the gamble, and we deflated the sponson, and it worked really well. We were able to float her into the back of the boat, and then as soon as I got back in the helm to start to drive in, obviously as the boat started to go up in the plane, the water drained out, and it worked. She was on a stable platform.
Good idea.
We drove her in. Yeah, we drove her in, and because the coach had already been on the radio to the Coast Guard, there was an ambulance there, so we were able to hand her to definitive medical care. So yeah, that was the first one, I suppose. There was plenty before that of just capsized boats and stuff like that, and run of the mill stuff that's you okay, yeah, I'm all right, I'll get back in the boat, or I'll help you get back in your boat, you know what I mean? But that was the first one that was sort of like, oh shit, here we're gonna have to think about something, do you know what I mean?
Man, that's awesome. I like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
what a
yeah.
good
So that,
idea. Deflate the sponson, float her right in, and then take off, let
yeah,
the water drain out. Ah, that's
yeah,
great.
yeah. And I don't know where I can't. I don't know. Somebody needs to take credit for that idea because I didn't come up with it myself. Do you know what I mean? I must have seen
Well,
it
today
somewhere,
I'm
or
giving it to you, so
I've been
whatever.
told about it, but it certainly wasn't my. I didn't revolutionize that idea at all. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, that would have been the first one, I guess.
very cool. Very cool.
Um. Yeah. So yeah, where were we? Because we went off on a
You
tangent
know what?
there.
That's all right. It's all right. I'll bring you right back. Ready? So now you're in Northern Ireland and you just get into search and rescue, and it was a rescue that stood out to you.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a high profile case. A young lad had been out at a concert. So in the center of Belfast, there's the River Lagan runs right through the middle, into the harbour, and there's a bridge goes across. And a young lad had been out with his friends and had fallen in. I think they were messing about, and he'd fallen in. It wasn't intentional. And I think memory serves me right. We were out for 3.5 weeks every day searching for him.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, yeah, and it was such a high profile thing, you know.
3.5 weeks.
Yeah, and like all these
Wow.
things, you know, he turned up. He turned up 3.5 weeks later, within about 150 meters of where he went in. You know, but obviously all these things get really protracted. You know, people are looking at graphs, and we're looking at, you know, the flow of the river and theoretically how far somebody could be. And with that one there, obviously it's going into the river, flows into the harbour, into commercial harbour, so it's tidal there as well. So off the back of that, we there was four of us within that team that we were in. We're like, there's no dedicated water rescue response in Belfast, so let's do it ourselves. Was basically the plan.
That's what I'm
um,
talking about. Oh, it doesn't
yeah.
exist.
So
We're about to make that change. We're gonna make it
yeah,
happen.
exactly. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, we December 2011, four of us, four sort of like-minded people as you were, got together, and there's a voluntary team on up around the north coast, um, who've been running for years, and they had a similar model. So we went to speak to them and said, you know, essentially, can we copy your model in Belfast? And they were like, yeah, no problem. You know, any help you need, we'll give you a dig out. So um, the tasking authority in Northern Ireland for that particular area is the police. So we needed to get the backing of them. So we approached the police and said, this is the idea. Would you support us? They're like, yeah, we'll support you in principle if you can get it off the ground. So um, it was April 2012, I think. We went public with the idea and started to recruit people in. And I was with them until 2014 when I joined the fire brigade. It was a long 3 years. Uh, these things have a lot of politics involved, which, you know, you don't really take into account. A lot of barriers to be broken down, and yeah, it was a hard 3 years, but it was worth it, you know. Funny, ironically enough, one of the sort of the barriers to break down at the start was the fire and rescue service, obviously, who I'm now employed with, which was quite amusing.
That's
Because they were
funny.
like, we you know, there is a dedicated, because obviously we wanted to be the thing, we wanted to be open and transparent with everything we did, because we knew it was going to be a high profile thing, and there would be political issues, you know, because there's other teams that said they covered that remit and stuff, but they weren't. Yeah, they did, but they weren't dedicated to that particular area.
Yeah.
Um, so we wanted to be transparent in everything we did, because we knew there'd be a lot of eyes on us. So every certification we did was externally accredited, and you could have come and seen that. Obviously, we had to work with all the statutory authorities to get their support, one being the fire service. And they had said, well, we have a dedicated water rescue response to the Lagan, which they have their specialist rescue team. But
Yeah.
our argument was, yeah, you've got your specialist rescue team. They're based in Belfast. Ironically, again, the station that I'm now based in myself. But because they're a province-wide asset, they could have been on the far side of the country at an incident. and then that leaves you with no cover.
Wow. Yeah.
And if you roll the clock forward, what would that be now? Roll the clock forward 12 years. I've been standing on that very river myself as an incident commander, with them having been 70 miles away at another call, and I've got a guy in the water, and I have no water rescue capability. So that's something we can talk about for later on down the line. So,
Yes, please.
it's funny how it all sort of interlinks. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I left in 2014. I stood down while I went into training school for the fire and rescue service, because obviously that was my priority at the time. And then my first child was born just after I graduated from the fire and rescue service. So I was like, I need to knock this voluntary stuff in the head for a wee bit. And then the guy who had put me through all my Rescue 3 qualifications, from flood responder all the way up to that point, to an advanced technician, he's like, what are you going to do with your skill sets now? And it's like, I don't know. I'll just sort of maintain my own development and see what happens. And he would be one of, certainly the most what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to think. Anyway, he runs a very, very successful training business in Ireland. He would train a lot of the fire services and a lot of the water rescue teams. And he's like, well, would you like to come and instruct for me, deliver for training for my business?
Nice.
I was like, yeah, okay, let's do that. Yeah. So I went through like a mentorship program with him for a few years, and then became a technical rescue instructor myself. And I delivered to him. So I would deliver training as an external instructor to the team that I was part of founding. So I would do their training as an external instructor.
That's
and
hilarious. I
then,
love that.
and 3 or 4 other of the water rescue teams in Northern Ireland. So it's funny how it kind of goes like full circle. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It makes it
so
so much fun too, because in all that time you've gained so much knowledge too, like all the
Yeah,
training you've
and
done,
that's what it is.
experience
I
you've
think.
had.
So that's it, isn't it? That's the adage, isn't it? So by whenever you're doing all your training, and by doing your training and stuff, you're gaining experience, and then it all builds on everything. Yeah. And it brings you to where we are now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
That's great.
I suppose that's like the shortened version of it, isn't it? Really?
That's really good. That's really good. I appreciate that. All right, so now let me fast forward a little bit, because you actually joined the fire brigade, right?
Yeah.
And that was after you were an instructor, or were you doing both at the same time?
So the two were running in parallel.
Oh, okay, nice.
When I joined the fire brigade, I was still going through the mentorship program to become an instructor. And I keep the two separate, because we're very fortunate in our shift pattern. We do 2 days, 2 nights, and then we get 4 off. So it gives me the time on my days off to do the other stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
oh, that's great.
2 contrasting roles. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, I do.
And obviously, the experience I'm gaining on the outside in the technical rescue world absolutely, comes across into my day job in the fire service. But the thing I need to be very careful about is staying within my remit and my statutory position in the fire service. Because sometimes we go to calls and there's lads there, they go, oh, you're a water rescue instructor, and I was like, no. As I stand here wearing this uniform, I am level 1 water awareness trained within the fire and rescue service, and I cannot work outside of that remit.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that causes a lot of frustration for me sometimes, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that I really hammer into students as well. Don't work outside your remit. If you get there and you can't do what you're supposed to do within the remit that's in front of you with the equipment or the training you have, well, let's not do it. We need to wait until the appropriate people come to back us up. Do you know what I mean?
I do, very much so. And it's one of those most frustrating things too, because like you have the knowledge. I've got the knowledge to go out and do it. And you might even have a full capable crew, but there might
Yeah,
be like key components missing that you're just trying to, now you're trying to put yourself into a spot that you shouldn't be in. And I gotta, man, I gotta put myself in check all the time with that. Good
yeah,
Lord.
yeah. You know, and it's like you see it all the time. You know, whenever I'm assessing teams and stuff like that, and you know, the team leader, you know, you're trying to reiterate into a team leader. You cannot get drawn into what's happening. You can't become task focused. Do you know what I mean? You have to, as a team leader, you have to stand back and maintain the situational awareness of the whole incident ground, and not
Yeah.
get yourself right in there. You know, and it's like one of the things. It's like if you don't have your dry suit on, you can't get in the water. So if you're a team leader, let's stay back. Let's see, you know, let's have an overview of the incident ground, and you're not wearing your PPE, so you're not going to find yourself in the water.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah.
yeah, whereas if they're all dressed and all the rest of it, they're like they'll end up in the water with everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can you take control of the situation whenever you're in the water and everybody else is on the bank? Do you know?
Because
Yeah,
you've been in the water once or twice, you know what it's like, you know what to expect, so you can give direction there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so it's yeah, the two do come hand in hand, but yeah, just like only on Friday there we had a guy jump in the river, and we turned up first, guys in the water, threw bag off the bridge. I got him to hold on to the throw bag, but that's all I can do. I have to wait
Yeah.
for the specialist rescue team to come, and you're in the same station as me, so they're only 5 minutes behind by the time they get dressed, and they're there sledding the water, and they come and get him. So you know, I got him a throw bag, but it's all I can do. But if they weren't there, if they were something else, then we're
Change
kind of
the
in the same
scenario.
bucket.
That just changes the scenario.
Yeah,
That's
it
it.
does, and
Yep.
and you know, yeah, you have to stay within your remit, but then that comes down to the moral dilemma, doesn't it? Are you
Yep.
going to sit and watch somebody drown, or are you going to
Nope.
do something?
I'm gonna do
What are you going
something.
to What are you
I'm
going to
gonna
do
do
then?
something.
Yeah, yeah,
Not sure yet, but I'm gonna do something.
yeah, and then you know you can stand back, and what happens nowadays at everything you go to nowadays, everybody's standing with a mobile phone, video,
Totally.
and
Yep.
they're going there, standing there doing nothing, and that man's drowning. So
Yep.
then, member of the public decides, well, they're not going to do anything, so I'm going to go in. Well, you have to stop them because then you're going to end up with two casualties. So we have to do something. But what we do, hey, I can't give you the answer. There's no right or wrong answer there.
Well, you
You
don't want to
know?
put yourself in harm's way. And this is one of the cool things about like you and I and all the training that we've been through. So we go through the training, we know our limitations. We've been pushed to a spot where your limits are to the max. So
Yeah,
I assure you now that I'm not going to get into the water or into a position where I'm uncomfortable. So
exactly that. And yeah, and you have to, as blunt as it may sound, it's like their emergency. I don't know where this quote came from, but their emergency isn't our emergency. Do you know what I mean?
amen.
It's so, you know, as blunt as it is, you know, we're going to go home.
Yep.
That's the
Yep.
idea. Do you know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep. And it sucks, but it's a fact.
And it
Their
comes back to
emergency is not
yeah,
our emergency.
it's benefit versus risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
let's have a look. You know, if I get in the water, is it going to be a benefit or is the risk too high? Especially if we're working outside our remit and we don't have the correct equipment or PPE.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gosh, totally.
So it's yeah, it's the same everywhere, isn't
It
it?
is. It totally
Yeah,
is. That's why I
yeah,
love doing this. I love hearing the stories because it doesn't matter what part of the world you're from. These stories are amazing. So, okay,
yeah.
let me
And I
let me
think
bring you in another one real quick though. Ready? Because you had a first firefighter call, which was a hoax, which I thought was kind of funny. And
yeah,
then you had
yeah,
a first rescue that wasn't like a fire or road traffic collision. So let's start with the hoax.
yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, Um, yeah, I've been on station a couple of days, and the first call came through, and it was a house fire. Came through as a house fire, and you're like, yes. Do you know what I mean? Everybody thinks we're mad. You know, it's like you're like, yes, this is brilliant. First call I get in the job is going to be a good going house fire. You know, flames licking out the windows. Here we go. This is what it is. And you rock up to the house, and no sign of anything. The occupants are like, "You all right, lads? Is everything okay?" And you're like, "Well, your house is supposed to be on fire." And they're like, "No, no, 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 nothing here."
Uh,
So yeah, it's like you're up the high dough, adrenaline through the roof, and then it's like, oh, driving back in the truck, like, oh, yeah. And everybody's like, "Well, are you sure that's a good thing?" And yeah, you do. You know what? Our jobs rely on other people's misfortune. For us to
yeah,
for us to do our job, it's somebody else's misfortune, and you wouldn't wish it on anybody.
right.
But on the flip side of that, whenever you get a good going house fire or whatever, you're like, this is what we joined for. Do you know what I
Exactly. It's what I joined for.
mean?
It's what I trained for.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think what I was saying about working outside your remit actually quite falls into the first rescue that I did in the fire service that wasn't, um, road traffic collision or a house fire or whatever. And looking back on it now, would I have done it again the same way? Probably not,
Ooh, oh, we
because
get
of
to
because of
debrief it.
lessons
I'm
learned.
so excited.
Yeah, because of lessons learned and all that sort of thing. Um, so I think I was in the job 6 months or something. And it came through as a special service call. It just came through as a female trapped in the mud. So I knew where it was from the local knowledge. It's a tidal estuary. I tried to look it up before this. I couldn't find it, but I think the tidal range is around 5 meters. So the water travels quick.
Wow.
Uh, it was a Sunday morning. It's a popular spot for walking and stuff like that. And there's a little island which you can walk to and from at low tide. And this girl, I think, had been maybe trying to walk there and got stuck in the sand. So mud flats. Um, when we got there, her mum was in the car park and she said, my daughter's out there. She has learning difficulties, blah, blah, blah. And you could see she was just below her waist in the mud. And on the way up the road, the guy in charge of me at the time was like, do you think you can get her out with the equipment we have on the truck? And I'm thinking, this, looking back at it now, I'm going, that's not within our remit. But at the time, you're in the job 6 months and you're like, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I'll do it. I was like,
I got
yeah,
this.
no sweat. I got this. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, so we got there and the tide was out, thankfully. So it's like, right, okay, we've got a bit of time. And I'm thinking, what equipment's in this truck that I'm going to be able to do this with? We did carry a mud lance, so you can use compressed air or you can use water to break the suction. So we carried a mud lance in the machine, but I had no PPE, so I have no dry suit, I have no mud boots or anything like that. And I'm like, should I really be going out here? But it's the same thing. Everybody's standing with the phones. It's a Sunday morning. And I'm going, yeah, yeah, no problem. I'll get her out. No, no sweat, no sweat. So she was maybe 25 meters from the beach, or the hard sand anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to do this? So I thought I'd take a longboard with me, which I can use as a platform, and
Define
then
a
I'll take the
longboard. You talking like a long spine
spine
board?
board, spine board,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
take spine
Got it.
board with me,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking I can use that as a platform. I'll take the mud lance with me. I'll take a life jacket for her. I put a life jacket on myself, and I put a floating line on my back, and we put a standard rope onto the spine board. So my thought process was, I'll get out to her, use the spine board as a platform, hopefully get her out of the mud. Then two of us can sit on the spine board, and the lads can pull us back in, use it as a sled. Right? That was the
Beautiful.
idea. Yeah.
That's great.
So I'm thinking, yeah, this is brilliant crack, right? This is going to be really good, really impressive, and all the rest of it. You're young and stupid. You're only in a job, and you're like, yeah, this I'm the chap here. Do you know what I mean? And then I started to gather all the kit, and I went, I can't carry a mud lance with a compressed air cylinder on my own. So we'll link it up to the hose, so we'll put water through it instead. But I thought what I'll do is I'll take out a shovel with a big long tail on it, big long handle, and I'll try and use that to break the suction first, and then if needs be, we can get the water lance out, right? So I walked out, and while I'm walking out, I'm like, I better not sink. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I can't stop. If I sink, I'm going to look like a dick. Do you know what I mean? And I'm never going to. I'd have to leave the fire brigade after 6 months. Do you know what I mean? I'd have to resign and go and live under a rock for the rest of my life. I could never be seen again. Do you know what I mean? So on the outside, you're all like, oh yeah, yeah, I've got this, but on the inside, you're going, oh shit. um. So anyway, yeah, I got to her without sinking, which was great. Put the longboard, or put the spine board behind her, and then I got onto it and used it as a stable platform. And thankfully, I was able to break the suction with the handle of the shovel, and I got her onto the board. I was conscious that she'd been there maybe 35 minutes by the time we got there.
Wow.
So as I brought her out, I lay her flat on the board and leaning against me, because I was conscious about putting her straight up in case there's hydrostatic shock and that sort of stuff from the compression of the mud,
Yeah.
You got her on the board, and yeah, we worked a treat. The lads pulled us in. Then we had a sled ride along the mud to get back in. And just as we were walking up the beach, the specialist rescue team arrived. So it was a bit of like, you could have cut the atmosphere with a knife. Do you know what I mean? And it's, yeah, you go back to that. So you look back at that and you go, lessons learned from that. And certainly from being an instructor for so long now, with different, people and different teams from all over, and different dynamics, is a big thing is don't let your ego get the better of you. Do you know what I mean? Because that rescue, I'll openly admit, was pure out and out ego. Like, absolutely, I was like, yeah, I got this, no problem. But if it had gone wrong, oh man. So would I do it again? Well, I didn't have the right PPE to do it for a start. So yeah, you'd maybe second guess it and think about it a bit more. And certainly, for the past sort of 5 years, having been an incident commander, it's like, would I let anybody else do it? Like, no. Well, we'll see. Do you know what I mean? So it's the ego thing and the moral pressure. Leave your ego in the car park when you come to work.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
So
you know
know
what
what
I mean?
though? I do. Well, let's recap it for a little bit, because if you actually had some time, like the tide wasn't coming in, she was.
We had loads of time. So you look at it, you break it down, we go, we had loads of time. There was no immediate risk to life. It was a nice sunny day. The conditions were nice. It's not like it was the middle of winter with rain going horizontal, freezing cold.
Yeah,
She'd have been okay for another 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we were able to make contact with her verbally. So you could have done a bit of reassurance, without putting yourself in that position.
Yeah. Like, hey, we've got some more people coming.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're
just sit
gonna be
tight.
fine.
We know you're there.
Yeah,
We
sit
can
tight.
see you. We're going to look after you. Blah blah blah. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Instead of
And
trying to cowboy it and
yeah,
go.
exactly. Yeah. And the lessons I've learned from that, I can deliver to students as well. It's like, say there's a vehicle in water, and the water's not rising, and the person's on the roof of the car, and the remit of if they're flood responders, so they're not allowed to swim. It's like, well, what are you going to do? You can't swim, so what are you going to do? Well, the person's not in, okay, they're in water, but the car's potentially not going to move because we're not having rising water levels, whatever. It's just, any scenario, if the casualty's in a comfortable position and they're not an immediate threat to life, well, let's take that 2 minutes to think about it logically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when you come down to the ego thing, it's like, in the operational environment, if we're going to an incident, well, right, so who have we got? Right, well, Jason's here. He's the best swimmer. Right, well, guess what? You're swimming. Do you know what I mean? And, maybe I'm the best at rope work. Right, I'm doing the rope work and such is doing X, Y, and Z. But whenever we come back and we're training, if you're the weakest at the rope, well, you're doing all the rope. And if I'm the weakest swimmer, I'm doing all the swimming. Because then by that, we're upscaling the whole team.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think
You
that's the way we
work
have
on
to
the
look at it.
weakness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you need to leave that ego shit outside to do that. You need, you
Yeah.
need to admit your weaknesses and work on them. And by like you say, by bringing your own skill set up, you're bringing the skill set of the whole team up.
Right.
That's my thought anyway.
I know. I'm on board with you. But absolutely on board with you. I like it because I mean, even you can bring it down just to a basic workout. I try to work on things that I'm not good at to get stronger in that area. Same thing on the other side. And I'll
Yeah,
be honest with you and me right now. My medical skills are not where they should be. All right. Doesn't mean
yeah,
I'm not studying. It doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm doing. It just means that I'm not practicing the way I should be. Right. So
yeah.
I need to get back in the books. Convenient enough, I got research coming up, so everything will be okay. I promise. But it's like I know that, and I know where my role is. So what am I going to do? I'm going to call the paramedic that's got the FPC or the advanced critical care stuff and be like, bro, I need you. I need your
Yeah,
help. I will be your assistant for whatever you need.
yeah, and that's a good point. Like, there's a rescue I'll probably talk about in a wee bit. I'm not sure what way we're going to go with this, but um, it was a medical event that happened to myself and a colleague, and after that, I went away and refreshed my medical bag that I carry with me on courses, refreshed my skill sets as well, because it's like, oh shit, we nearly got caught out there, do you know? Um,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, isn't it? It's like anything we do, if we don't continually maintain our skill sets, the skill fade's massive. And
Yeah.
that's what catches you out. And then complacency as well. Well, sure, that's the way we've always done it. Well, complacency kills people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we have to continue to train on what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and we
Yeah.
were talking about, having an ego and putting the ego to the side. And when you get on scene, you call your best guys forward for that
Yeah.
in particular incident. I'm all about
Yeah.
it. In addition, I'm also all about when it comes to training, work on your weakness, work on the
Yeah.
stuff that you're not good at to get good at it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You and I are
Makes
on board
sense.
with that. Heck yeah.
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 Yeah. That's
Nice.
the way. That's what needs to happen, isn't it?
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
funny. Just out of
Yeah.
curiosity, when the other guys showed up to the lady that was stuck in the mud and you're covered in mud, did they say
Yeah.
anything to you or just look at you and be like, you dumbass?
Well, no. The funny thing about it was that I I had arranged for them to visit us that afternoon for them to show us on on their truck and what they had, because they're based in Belfast, and at that time I was based in a rural station maybe 30 minutes away. So it was, an education thing that afternoon. The special rescue team were coming down. We're going to be like, they've got this, that, and the other. We can do this, that, and the other, and all the rest of it. So yeah, when they came down that afternoon, it was a bit like, oh shit.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
funny.
but I work with those guys now day in day out, and it's water under a bridge, like.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, we're 10 years down the line, like, nearly, so it's okay. It's all
It's
good.
fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Nice.
Yeah.
We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors. Breeze Eastern, the world's only dedicated helicopter hoist and winch provider. You actually have another rescue that stood out to you, which was about 4 years ago, give or take, and you had an incident with somebody who had an EpiPen with them.
Oh yeah. So this is the one that I just said. So yeah, after this, I went and swiftly renewed, or read up on my medical stuff again. Yeah, we were running a course. We were running a swiftwater rescue technician course. Myself, my colleague that I work with. And it was down in a real sort of rural area of Ireland. Now, Southern Ireland itself, Republic of Ireland, is quite rural anyway. The population density is very sort of, compacted. But it was a gorge down and the way down in the south of Ireland. And like we do for all our courses, there's a medical questionnaire to be filled out on the first day by the students, the declaration for the insurance and all the rest of it, and as you know, the way those things go.
So real quick, you're teaching the course for this?
Teaching the course, yeah.
All right,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you're the instructor. You have a bunch of students coming with you, and you're going down to the training area to do the training.
Yeah.
Got
So
it.
the team,
Okay, wanted to make
is
sure I
based
was
down
tracking.
yeah, the team's based down that direction, so we travel down there to train them. And they were really
Okay.
good. There's a really good venue about an hour away from where they were based. Um, and yeah, so there was a girl in the course that carried 2 EpiPens. So I've never seen that before. Two. I was like, oh, allergies. Must be bad. Like, um, and but again, it's one of those things. You're like, yeah, we've got that. We'll put that with a med kit, right? All the students know where it is. Obviously, her colleagues around her, they're aware of what she needs it for and all the rest of it, and they're all over it. So you kind of put it to the back of your mind. And we had a break for lunch. We came back down, and just as my colleague and I were discussing what way the afternoon was going to pan out, what we were going to do, we had already tasked some of the team to start crossing the river and take kit across and what have you. And this girl, she turns around and she goes, oh, I'm not feeling the. And before she could finish the sentence, she's on the deck, unconscious.
Oh my gosh.
And the two of us are like, oh, So the guy I was working with was 30 years in fire EMS. So he switched paramedic head on straight away. It's like, thankfully, he's here as a paramedic. He started doing his bits and pieces. There was a couple of team members kicking about. They're all like, oh my God. So we needed to distract them, sent them to get the oxygen and the med bag and the EpiPens, get them over. And she's out cold, unresponsive, and then every so often, the big like big gasp, yeah, and then out again, and the two of us are like, and
That means
but you
something.
have to,
I don't know what that means right now, but it means something.
yeah, exactly, yeah, it's like this is only going to go one way, and so it's like, right, okay, and of course all her colleagues obviously they're her friends as well. They're all around. They're all like all piling on top and trying to do the wake up, and she's going to die and all this kind of stuff. And so it's like, right, well, we need to sort this out. So he carried on doing his paramedic stuff. There's a couple of lads in there that we trained as technicians previously, so we had a bit of experience. So it's like, right, you two manage the rest of your team, get the guys that are on the far side of the river, get them back over here. Let's get all our equipment together, and then we'll work out a plan, because we were 20 minutes from where the vehicles were parked in a gorge. So it was like a little sort of, it wasn't even a path. There was no path that we'd follow to get there. It was just cutting through the trees. We'd been down earlier on and with a chainsaw and removed a couple of bits and pieces and stuff. So it's like, right, we need to think of an extrication plan. Well, we need to manage her first of all, then we need to think of an extrication plan, and then we need to think of where's the nearest hospital, how are we going to get there, and all that kind of stuff. So, and we needed to give all her colleagues distractions, give them jobs, so that they're not running about in a flap and they're not in our faces while we're trying to do what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
So they got all the gear back. Yeah, they administered an EpiPen. My colleague administered the EpiPen. Made no difference. And we're like, shit, you know what I mean? Should we give her another one? And we're like, we're on having a discussion about, can you give too much adrenaline? Can you not? I don't know. She was still unresponsive, so we whacked the other one in, hoped for the best. Didn't, she was still unconscious, coming around every so often, taking the big gasps, and then going back out again. And we're like, this is really serious here. So two of her team members were like, right, take a mobile phone, go and find phone signal from somewhere, because where we were there was no phone signal. Dispatch them off, get a hold of an ambulance, tell them it's a cardiac event, which is what we surmised at the time. And let's get people rolling to us, and then we'll try and figure out what we're going to do. So it was managing her, getting her into the litter, packaged into the litter. We had sent some team members ahead to carve a path to make it easier, put in a couple of rope systems for low angle rescue so we could manage the stretcher up unstable ground. To get us up, it gives them all a job to do as well, and it made it easier for us. And we extricated up out of the gorge to where the vehicles were. But we were an hour away from the nearest hospital. So the lads appeared back. They'd been on and got hold of the ambulance service, and they were tasking a helicopter because of the cardiac event. So I'll send you. I'll write a note about that too. I'll send you a photograph of that because I took a picture after the event. So where I'm thinking, where we are, Waterford, S92 is half an hour away. So I'm thinking, right, that's who's going to be coming, and I'm looking at the area where we are, and it's like where we'd parked was like a little sort of holiday village thing, maybe like 5 or 6 holiday homes and a swimming pool randomly in the south of Ireland, a swimming pool. But anyway, the weather's not really suitable for that. And the field that led off that was quite a steep angle. And it was muddy because it was January, and then the river was at the bottom with a load of pine trees. So I'm like thinking that's not big enough for an S92. We're going to have to think of something else. So we looked around, and there was a field across the road. And that was, that's what we thought. It's going to be the lads from Waterford are going to be coming. And then it was a 109, an AW 109 appeared, and we're like, what's this about? You know what I mean? It's not the Air Corps. So the Air Corps in the south would do some aeromedical stuff, but this wasn't a green helicopter. Do you know what I mean? It was like white and blue. It was white and blue.
This is much smaller than what I expected.
Yeah, exactly. So we're like, all right, okay, so this changes things, and we're thinking, right, what are we going to do? And the guy just sticks this helicopter, sticks the 109 between the trees and the swimming pool in the squishy field,
oh my gosh.
We're like, okay, fair enough. Yeah. So it turned out it was a new charity air ambulance that had set up in that part of the country. They'd only been going for a couple of months. So nobody really knew. Well, none of us knew about it. So we were like, oh, this is great. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so they turned up, the paramedic jumped off, and the doctor, and did all the stuff they do, and off she went. So it turned out laterally. It turned out then it came back the Saturday evening that she had pleurisy, which is what it caused it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So nothing that anybody would have expected.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously when we were sort of monitoring her obs as best we could without any equipment, it was the adrenaline then that was giving her the funny pulse. Yeah. So that's why we had some cardiac event. But the doc at the time when he came, he says, no, lads, did the right thing. We'd saturated her with oxygen as well. And, but he's like, you did the right thing. There's nothing else you could have done for her. And I think that, the takeaway from that for me was, and it's the same in work, in the fire service, we can only do what we have. Do you know what I mean? If it's for us, because we're not fire EMS in Northern Ireland, we don't do EMS in the fire service. The ambulance service do that. So, for me in work, it's I can stop a catastrophic hemorrhage, and I can try and maintain their airway and keep them comfortable. That's all we can do. And that's what you have to remember. People are thinking you can do brain surgery at the side of the road, but we can't.
True statement. You cannot do brain surgery on the side of the road.
You can't. Do you know what I mean? We have to wait for the professionals to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, certainly we're so lucky up here. We have a charity air ambulance in Northern Ireland, and those guys do come out, and they have done I've seen them do some stuff on the side of the road that you wouldn't even think they could do in an operating theatre. It's unbelievable what they can do, like unbelievable. But yeah, that rescue. So yeah, it was the big sort of takeaway from that, I think, for myself and my colleague, was when we sat down with the team when we got back that night before we knew what the prognosis was. They're obviously in bits because their friend's been taken away in a helicopter. They all thought she was going to die. And they were all like, the two of you were so calm. How do you do that? How do you manage that? And we did it as well without realizing. You go from having your instructor hat on to immediately having your rescuer hat on.
Right.
You draw on your experience, so you go from essentially one day job to the next day job without even thinking that transition. and it's, you know, yourself. It's all about remaining calm and doing what you need to do, and you know that appeases everybody else around you. Whereas really, we look calm on the outside, but on the inside, we're all like 1,000 miles an hour because we're like, shit, what are we gonna do if she dies? What are we gonna do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was the big takeaway for me, that you know you don't really think about it. It's just, you know, it's second nature to you. As like you say, as you go through your career and you build your experience, you know, you don't think about, you just go in, you just do it. You just do the stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
You go into
All the
that wee zone.
training, all the training
Yeah,
just kicks right back in. Yeah.
yeah, and you go into that wee zone, and away you go. Yeah, so it looks good on the outside, but on the inside, it's
Yeah,
a different
right.
story.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Because, you know, we
Yeah.
talked about it afterwards, and we're both like, shit, we're gonna have to, you know, we need to maybe update the med bags and go into a wee bit of remote area medical stuff again. And yeah, so off the back of that, I renewed one of my it was coming to expiry anyway, but put a lot more emphasis on renewing my medical qualification at the time. And since then as well, I went to the French Alps. I went out to Chamonix in the Alps last year and did a mountain medicine course.
Oh,
Um,
very cool. Wow.
yeah, just for my own development. Yeah, yeah.
How
Um,
was that?
do
Wait
you
a
know
minute.
what?
Let me hold on. Let me ask that in a minute. Keep going with what we've got.
Yeah, so you need to remind me on that one, because that one's actually quite funny, the way it looked at it for me. Um, yeah, so yeah, that was the takeaway from us from that. You know, is yeah, you know, you need to keep your skills sharp in every area where you do. You know, because to me, I'll openly admit, you know, you do your medical stuff, and then you don't really, unless you're actually
Right.
practicing on a daily basis, you know, you sort of become complacent and think, I'll be okay. And then when it
Right.
happens, you're like, oh, I need to switch on here. You know, right now, what was that? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. What did you guys end up doing to like re-up in practice? You guys redid the med bag, you said you got a little more training and just re-upped your skills and whatnot. What did you end up, did you add anything to the bag, or did you end up doing
For
more
me,
to be prepared?
um, yeah, I always carry oxygen now on my courses, so I would never
Nice.
have had oxygen with me in the past. Um, but yeah, so I went away, and the course that I had already had anyway covered medical gases, so it was just a case of me going to the supplier and getting an oxygen cylinder. So yeah, I carry O2 with me all the time now in courses. So yeah, I have defib and O2 and airways and all the bits and pieces. But you know,
Cool.
in the, you know yourself, in that rural environment, there's only so much you can do. Like, but you
Right.
have to be able. You can only do your best.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at
Now
least if
you
we have
said
every.
well, you had a defib, so you're talking like an AED.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I carry stuff for catastrophic hemorrhage, airways, AED, oxygen, and then, you know, splints and stuff for minor things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but
Wow.
you know, yeah.
Very cool. I love how you updated though. Like you had an incident and then you made the changes to update whatever you've got to update. And
Yeah, because if
I,
it's happened once, it's going to happen again.
yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's it, isn't it? Sometimes, you know, we like to think that we're proactive all the time in what we do, but then sometimes something like that happens and you're like reactive. You're like, shit, you know, I need to, you know,
yeah,
I need to be able to manage this situation better the next time. You know,
right.
not that it was mismanaged, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
it's not something that happens all the time. You're thinking it's like normal routine stuff, and
yeah,
you just, yeah, you don't get quite into it, and then all of a sudden it's like bam in your face, and you're like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
yeah, that's cool. I like it. All
yeah,
right,
yeah,
so now
yeah.
I gotta ask the Alpine. You went to the Alpines to do some medical training and like
Yeah, so
wilderness
yeah, I
training.
went in a course. Yeah, um, a mountain medicine course. It was designed for people that want to be expedition medics.
Hmm.
Um, so I came across it randomly. Well, not randomly. They ran a course. The company that was with ran a course in the summer in the French Alps. But they weren't running that course last year. But he said we've got one in the winter. It's in 3 weeks' time. Would, you know, there's two spaces on that, and I was like, hmm, yeah, okay, why not? You know, I'll give it a go for the crack. Yeah. Um, and Oh, brilliant. Just to be, just to be in that part of the world. Now I've ridden mountain bikes out there a lot. I would go to the French Alps on the mountain bike quite a lot. Um, but to be out there in a different capacity was great. So they were all most of them were junior doctors, some general practitioners, there was an anaesthetist, and there was two two or three paramedics. Um,
Wow.
so out of a course of, I think there was 30 people, there was only four of us that were pre-hospital. Um,
Wow.
so it was very interesting for me. A lot of the medical stuff was a bit like, I'm like nudging the person beside me. What's that? Do you know what I mean? They're talking about different drugs and bits and pieces. Um,
Yeah.
but the scenario based stuff for me was very, very interesting because, you know, the first scenario that we were put in, I think the assumption was that everybody was a junior doctor or worked in a clinical environment. So the four people that were with me, uh, there was an anesthetist, and then the rest were junior doctors. Um, and so we're in the French Alps in March in the snow, and the scenario was a broken right femur, and it's essentially you had a splint, a foil blanket, and the plastic survival bags,
Yeah.
and a couple of triangular bandages, and it was like, right, folks, this is what you've got. You need to manage your casualty and get them off the mount. Um, so I kind of stood back and didn't really say much, and the guy who was the anaesthetist, he started roaring and shouting orders and all the rest of it. We needed this, we needed that. But it was as if he was in theatre and he was concentrating on airways and this, that, and the other. And I'm kind of standing back going, what? Do you know? So I said to him, I says, are you taking control? And he's like, no. And I'm like, right, well, somebody needs to take control. Um, and they were all kind of like, and I says, right, well, I'll do it then. So it's like, right, you manage the airway. You three get a splint on the guy's leg, make him comfortable, and then we'll think of an extrication plan. And they were all like, oh, we can't move him, we can't do this, we can't do that, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, what's going to kill him? The broken leg's not going to kill him. We've got his airway managed, so he's not going, his airway's managed, but the cold's going to kill him. So let's get him off the bloody mountain. Do you know what I mean? Um, and it was through, stuff that I've done in the past. We were able to work together as a team, get everybody a job, and we got we got him into the plastic survival bag, and we slid him down the mountain. Essentially, it was for the duration of the scenario. It wasn't from one end to the other. It was like 10 meters, and then the instructor was like, right, no problem, happy days, you got him out. But the debrief was very interesting in that um nobody, so we weren't known to each other, so nobody had introduced themselves. I'm at fault as well. Nobody had at the start of the scenario had been like, oh, I'm Simon, I'm a firefighter, you're such and such, you're a GP or whatever. There'd been none of that. When the scenario started, everybody was just kind of throwing their stuff about. So and the guy who was the anesthetist, he was like, oh, I didn't know we had any firefighters here. And it's like, well, that's where we failed as a group at the start. We didn't communicate. Um,
Yeah.
because then you're gonna utilize your skill sets uh in that environment. So that was the takeaway for me. And then the big thing was, in any scenario we did, because all those guys don't work in a pre-hospital environment, they're very, very sort of task focused on all the real medical stuff. Whereas, we're in the nitty gritty, down in the shitty stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
you this is what we do. We're bringing them out of in real rough and ready ways, and we're handing them to you in a nice clinical environment, and that's all you see. So yeah, I think it was good for them too, because they're like, oh, I don't think they considered that what we as first responders do, and you know a real bad road traffic collision, for example, how the shapes that people are actually in whenever we're trying to cut them out, and get them packaged. They didn't appreciate that side of the thing because they don't see it. It's not their fault.
Right.
But so yeah, that was the big takeaway for me.
Yeah.
Uh, was that? But yeah, no, it was a brilliant course. Like, it was good.
Oh, that's super cool. I love what
Yeah.
you said right there. Like, you're right. They don't see what we see. And you know what? I'm at fault for it as well, where I assume that people don't either A, know what they're doing, what they're talking about,
Mm.
because I don't have all the information that they have. And
Yeah.
when you start showing up to an area and you're like, holy cow, and you're the first one on scene or you're the first one there, you're doing everything you can to save the victim, the patient, get them out, and then you bring them in, and all of a sudden you hand somebody to a hospital or whatnot, and they're filthy, dirty. They've got, and you're like, and they look at you like, what the heck did you do to this guy? You're like, you have no
You've
idea what
no
I've just
idea.
gone through.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you just shut your mouth.
yeah.
But
You've got
well, we don't
absolutely
do
no
that. Like,
idea.
right. You come in and be like, listen, he was in a
Yeah,
very precarious position, and this is what I had to do to get him out. Boom, done. I actually
yeah.
just talked to a guy not too long ago that actually it's coming, but
Mm.
he was up for over 24 hours with a patient, was left on scene with them, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So him bringing the victim or the patient to the hospital after being awake and treating and caring for him for 24 hours, there's an element to that. So the
Yeah,
people in the shift in the hospital, man, they might have just come on, they might have been middle of their
yeah,
shift. They haven't been there for over 24 hours. So,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. And
anyway,
we are sort of more getting that now too here, just because the ambulance service is so stretched and various bits and
yeah.
pieces. Um, just on what day was it? On Friday there, I got turned out to a road traffic collision, and we got there. The girl had been in the car in a ditch for an hour and a half before we got there.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and then it was another hour and a half before an ambulance was able to get to her. So essentially, she'd been on her own for an hour and a half, and then I'd sat with her for an hour and a half, and then she's getting definitive medical care. Um, we're getting sent now increasingly more to assist the ambulance service. Maybe elderly people have fallen. Like a couple of sets ago, I got one. An elderly lady had fallen behind the door of her apartment. She'd been on the floor for 3.5 hours when we got there. The carer had come and couldn't get in. So we made entry through a window, and then you know you're sitting, and because she's not essentially, obviously they're categorizing their calls because they're that stretched. So obviously the cardiac arrest, the big traumas and all sort of stuff are coming first in the priority, which is fine. But then we're sitting with her. I was sat with her for the crew, and I were sat with her for another 2 hours, I think, before an ambulance came.
Yeah.
And I tried my best to get to get her up the priority, because she'd complained of pelvic pain and she was in blood thinners, and I'm like, well, there's potential for, she was 98 years old. So
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
she's fallen. There's potential here for a pelvic injury. She's on blood thinners, big bleed, Yeah, but you can only do what you can do. But yeah, that's the thing,
Right.
you're handing them then to definitive medical care, and they're maybe going, what the hell have you done to that person? You're like, well, I've just been, she's been on the floor for 4 hours or whatever. We've been sat with her for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, they don't see the full picture
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a great way. I'm going to transition into something right here because you actually posted something on LinkedIn not too long ago about first responders and the trauma journey, the first responder trauma journey.
Yeah, I think it's a close friend of mine who's a nurse, an emergency nurse in the local ED, which is it's one of the busiest in the country, and it's something that we discussed. And as first responders, we don't see we don't fulfill our trauma journey, right? So, and what I mean is, for me in the fire service, certainly, I don't know if it's probably maybe the same in the helicopter SAR world. We go on the scene, we're doing the bits and pieces, we're doing the extrication, we're doing the thing, we're doing the initial treatment, and then for us, they go off to hospital, and we never
Yep.
hear anything else. You know, I would say
Totally.
98% of the jobs that I've done, I've never heard of the outcome. The only time you hear of the outcome is if it's been a fatality and you read it in the news. That for me, that's the big thing. And I think that can affect mental health and first responders because you're not getting that fulfillment. Um, I went to a fatal light aircraft crash Well, the guy was taking his last breath in front of me as we cut him out of the aircraft. Um, and only for me being stationed in a fire station at the time that has the ambulance station right next to it. We found out subsequently that he died later that afternoon of huge internal injuries, and then obviously it was published on the news the next day. But the vast majority of the time, we never know. Those people that have had huge traumatic injuries in RTCs that you've cut them out, you're sitting with them, you're doing the treatment, you're trying to make them comfortable, and then off they go, and you never hear it. And I think that does have a bearing on sort of the post trauma thing for first responders.
Yeah.
What the answer is, I don't know. Because obviously there's a confidential thing and all the rest of it, and the ability, to get the stuff. But the other thing is as well, we can go to one traumatic event and then be sent straight away to another one, and then
Yep.
straight away to another one, and there's no downtime in between. It's the same in an ED. They're getting people passing away all the time, but they're just having to move from one to the next to the next. So there's no break in it. Whereas in some elements of the first responder and medical world, if they have a fatality, they're getting the downtime to process and have that discussion.
Yeah.
I know some fire services manage it differently depending on the category. If it's a hugely traumatic event, say, maybe the death of a child or something, they're taken off the run for a period of time to sit and discuss it,
Oh,
whereas
wow.
we aren't. And I remember it would have been 2016, 2017 it was. I had 3 fatalities in one set, so we do 2 days, two
Oh,
nights. I had
wow.
3 in one set, and not once did anybody come near us with any form of schism or sit down. And okay, that was slightly different because they were all fatals on scene. But still, we have to have those discussions, and schism for us is now becoming more prevalent. But then you can
Very
go
nice.
I think you can go the other way though, that if you're getting a large number of fatalities and you're having an intervention after every single one, it kind of becomes like, oh, here we're gonna have that same chat again. So it's a fine line, isn't it?
It very much
Um,
so is. Yeah. You don't want to force it
yeah,
down people's throats,
yeah,
but at the same time, be there. Be there for everybody when they have that
that's
rough
exactly it.
call. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we've unfortunately had two firefighters in the past 12 months take their own lives. You know,
Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that.
and there's only there's only in total maybe less than 2,000 of us, in Northern Ireland. So that it's becoming more of a thing, isn't it? But it's not just it's in any sort of first response world and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a big thing. That not seeing it out to the end, the trauma journey, but it's just the nature of the way certainly our job is. You don't get that information,
No.
so you have to
I,
look at alternative ways to manage it.
so sometimes I've been able to get like sometimes I'll do a follow up and the majority of the time I'm 100% with you. Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Either you don't take the time or you can't get the information.
yeah. You can't.
Uh,
You can't. That's the thing. You
yeah.
can get somebody to ring up and they go, "You next to kin." No, all right. Well, you're not
Can't
getting.
talk to. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
On occasion, I've called back to hospitals where it was an interesting like rescue or medevac or whatever it was. And hey, I was the rescue crew there. I'm just looking for patient information as far as
yeah, yeah,
are
yeah,
they are they okay? And,
yeah,
sometimes if the hospital knows you, then a lot of times
yeah,
they'll be like, yeah, no
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
But
yeah,
like in the aviation world where I come from, you could be especially where I was working down in the Gulf of Mexico area.
yeah. You could be a million miles from where you're
Oh yeah,
supposed to be. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah.
you fly out of Texas and you're landing in
Mm.
Alabama, and that's they're like, who are you?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm not talking to
yeah,
you. All
yeah,
right,
yeah,
but so I totally understand. I get it. I get it. So
yeah,
to hear
yeah.
back from the victim, from the patient is, I it just warms my heart
Yeah, yeah, it
when we
makes a
get
big
to.
difference, doesn't it?
Yep,
Yeah, it does make
yep.
a big difference for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me talk to one more. I'm going to segue into one more thing because you actually had a very interesting rescue, or sort of. I guess it's more of a fire. You had a big
Oh,
fire.
yeah, we did. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but wait a minute. This is let me bring this up right here because it was actually in the in the news, the BBC News, Northern Ireland. This was published on 28 August of 2018. Belfast, Primark fire, grave concern. Bank buildings could collapse. And there are pictures of just this whole building engulfed in flames. And you were one of the guys that was first on scene. Is that right?
Yeah, we were the first truck on scene. Yeah.
What the heck happened?
Um, yeah, we can talk about it now because it's been in the news recently with the court case and all that sort of stuff. So, we can sort of talk about it a bit more.
Sorta. Okay. Don't tell.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Don't get yourself in trouble. Come on, Simon.
No. I can discuss about what was certainly was published in the news anyway. But um, yeah, we got the call, came through as smoke on the roof was what it was. And we're like, okay, smoke on the roof. We're like, Primark, well, that's a prominent building in the center, right in the city center. My station is in the city center. That's our station area. So we knew we'd probably be first there anyway. And as we were, it's like, what is it, 4 minutes journey or something like that. As we were going down the road, then it was updated to a confirmed fire on the roof. And when we turned into the end of the street where it was, it's at the bottom end of the street, and it was more than a fire on the roof. Like the thing was going proper. um, and so we pulled up the front and we jumped out, and the security guard at the doors like, is there a fire, lads? And we're like, yeah, the whole roof's on fire. Do you not know? And he's like, no, I don't know anything about it. So nobody inside knew anything about it. Now this is memory serves me right, 6 floor clothing shop. I think it was 6 floors, maybe.
You know
Um,
what? So the fire service said the blaze started on the fifth floor of the roof, or the roof. So yeah,
yeah,
5 or 6 floors in the building.
yeah. When we got there, so obviously we went in. Nobody was aware there was a fire. So to be fair to the security guard, he hit the brake glass point for the automatic fire alarm, which obviously sounded the alarm and started the evacuation. But at the time, the building was being refurbished. They'd been building a new bit onto the back. So we said, right, we need to get access to the roof. But you couldn't get access to the roof from within the store. So we had to go down the side of the building and up the scaffolding. So there was, a scaffold up the outside, and then in through a window, and then up onto the roof. So we had to run hose, down the side of the store and up 6 floors to get onto the roof. And yeah, so long story short, myself and my
No, wait,
BA
don't do
partner, we
that to
were.
me. Don't do that to me. Don't make a long
Oh,
story
okay.
long, dude. I like the details, man.
Yeah,
Come on.
so we're lugging hose up. We're all lugging hoses up to the 6th floor, and then went into like a makeshift sort of workshop plant room that was on the roof, and there was louvered doors. And when myself and my BA partner opened the louvered doors to go out, you could just see the end of the thing was just going. It was going like the clappers, and it was like, whoa, this is serious. Um, and yeah, we had a 70 mil diameter hose up there, and you may as well add a water pistol. Um, yeah, it was way far gone from what it had been burning for a long time. That was the thing. Uh, so subsequently, it turned out in the inquiry that um, there'd been contractors on the roof, and I think that, well, they had been doing felting, bitumen on the roof, the what, yeah,
Okay.
and from memory serves me right, it caught fire to the plywood behind. And I think they thought they had the fire out. I'm not 100% sure, but they went in their tea break, and the thing was still on fire. Yeah. And it was actually a passerby in the street had seen the smoke, and he had phoned it in. But so the dry risers in the building, for firefighting, so we can plug in on the ground, and we can go, yeah. they weren't functioning because of the refurbishment work. So the only way we could get the water was up the scaffold, which we went, and that wasn't going to do it. And we had our aerial appliances had arrived with, they can create a water tower as well, but yeah, it was, because it was such an old building as well. I mean, that building had survived the Blitz, it survived the Blitz in the Second World War. It survived the Troubles. And it's like, we have to try and save this here. We can't let this burn to the ground. But yeah, that's the biggest fire I've been to. I think it's been the biggest. I think they said it's been the biggest peacetime fire in the city centre.
Wow.
But yeah, there was all sorts of stuff to overcome. We couldn't get enough water pressure from the hydrants, and we couldn't. It was just, yeah. And then because it's all clothing and it's such an old building with timber floors and stuff, the
Yeah.
fire loading in there it was massive. Like, so the building didn't fall down. The positive is the building didn't fall down. They saved it.
Nice.
They saved the facade. It's actually open again now. So they kept the facade of the building, the outside, because it's such a historical building, and they rebuilt in behind it, and it actually opened again just before Christmas.
Oh, nice.
I thought we would have got invited, to cut the ribbon of the opening, but they didn't invite us.
Oh man.
I was very disappointed.
Oh, what the heck, guys? We saved your building and everything.
But yeah, I mean, there were 4 or 5 days, 24/7. There was firefighters there just tamping it down and that sort of thing. So yeah,
Wow.
that was an interesting job, though.
Dang.
Yeah. That was some
Simon,
experience. Yeah, and
dude.
again, it's one of those things. It's like, obviously it's a huge misfortune, and it's a huge financial loss to a lot of people and that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
when you're there doing a job, you're like, yeah, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this, isn't it? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I get, and you know what? You said it a little earlier ago. Like, we don't wish misfortune on anyone, but
No, not at all.
if it's
No,
gonna
no,
happen,
definitely not.
call me. I'll be there.
Yeah, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there to sort it out.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Simon, this
So
has been
yeah,
awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and joining me. Just telling
no
these
problem.
epic stories.
Yeah, it's
I
been good.
absolutely love it. What you guys do in Ireland and all over. Knowing you're doing even the fast water or swift water, rappel, and all your ropes rescue stuff, man, that's awesome. Plus the fire
Yeah,
brigade, amazing, dude. I love it.
yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's
But
good. If we didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't do it. You know what I mean?
true statement.
That's what
Yep.
it's all about. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about having the crack.
I know. I might have to get a
Yeah,
real job someday.
I know. Well,
No,
that's
no.
it. Yeah, you could. No, yeah, you could work for a living. Isn't that what they say? Do you know what I mean? It's the best job in the
Yeah.
world, and then you could maybe go and get a job where you have to work for a living.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So listen, I got one more question before I let you go, and I'd love to ask advice from you. So if you
Yeah,
had any advice that you'd want to pass on to everybody else, either doing the job, coming up, or whatever, man, what do you got?
yeah. Well, yeah. Obviously I'm biased, but yeah, fire and rescue service firefighter is the best job in the world.
I like that.
No questions asked. Absolutely. Um, you know, Firefighters will grumble and then moan. They don't like things the way they are, but they don't like change either. Do you know what I mean? But it's still the best job in the world.
That's
But
great.
I think, yeah, um, just be humble in what you're doing. You know, Certainly in this world, everybody's in that sort of an alpha character potentially. Sometimes you have to be, but like we discussed earlier on, you need to work, you need to accept your weaknesses. Leave your ego at the door, and that way everybody gets along, then, don't we? And we can make ourselves more grounded and better as a team, or whatever we are, or as individuals. I think that's probably the what I would have to say. Do you know what I mean?
I like it. I like it a
Yeah,
lot. Simon, I
yeah,
can't thank you enough, man. Joining
no
me.
problem.
When I come to Northern Ireland, we are kicking back a brew. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. We'll take you up the north coast where we talked earlier, and yeah, show you where you need to go and have your drama whiskey, and then certainly we'll go and we'll show you where the best Guinness is, and I'd say, like, yeah, once you get everybody together who's been on here from Ireland, yeah, that'll be some weekend if everybody got together. Be
I've
some
already,
livers,
you already
some
told me I'm
livers
leaving as an
screaming.
alcoholic. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Our livers will all be in bits if we have a full weekend together of all of us, man. That would be nuts.
It'll be so fun. It'll be worth
Yeah.
it.
Oh, the crack would be unbelievable. Yeah. It has
Oh
to
my
happen.
gosh.
It absolutely has to happen.
All right. Well, let's make it
Yeah.
happen. I like the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely
No
right
problem.
on. Well, I'll see you soon. And again, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah. No, thanks very much for the offer. Yeah, it's great.
Anytime. And with that,
Cool.
ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go.
Now it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real Rescue. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode, Breeze Eastern. They dedicate themselves to our helicopter rescue world. Since the very first helicopter rescue in November of 1945, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured superior rescue hoist solutions. While much of the technology and the unique mission requirements have changed over the past 75 years, their commitment to the rescuers, the operators, and those being rescued has not. Contact them today by visiting them at breeze-eastern.com. Hey, rule number 6. Don't be a prick. All right, look, I get it. Not every situation is warm and fuzzy. Not everybody you work with or around is a warm and fuzzy. Sometimes people make you angry or upset or sad. But fact of the matter is, you don't have to be mean. You can be polite, you can be respectful, and you can be helpful. You might not agree with everything that's going on, but that's okay. It still costs nothing to be nice. It's something my dad likes to say. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. Or like my wife says to all of her students, just be kind.